I needed to set up a web page, Confluence and Jira for a startup company. I use Docker Compose and the Linux machine, and it was so smooth that I decided to make a video about it. So in this video I will show you first how to set up a Linux server from Linode. After that we will install WordPress with Docker Compose and set up a nice web page. Then we will install Confluence for all the documentation and Jira for project management. Here we go. So the first thing that you need to do is to grab a Linux server in the cloud, a VM machine from Azure, AWS, or in this case I'm going to use Linode because it's very cheap and a good user interface and easy to use. So I log into my Linode account. Here I have already a Linode running. I add another Linode, choose the cheapest plan and choose London and add this Linode. Now you see that it starts immediately to create my Linode, and I can jump to the dashboard and see what's going on. Here I see that it has successfully gone through the initial configuration. Now we need to deploy an image to our Linux VM machine, so I will just choose here deploy an image. In this case I will use Ubuntu 14 because it's I know that it's working well in this case. Deploy, and it starts to create from distribution Ubuntu 14. Create the file system, and it sets the root password to the root password I've chosen in my account. Now we can start our node, Linux node, by clicking the boot button. I'll confirm that I want to start up the machine, and it starts to boot as you see here. Then when it's ready booting, I can go to remote access and access my Linux machine through the SSH. So I just copy the SSH access, go to the command prompt and paste it in, and it will ask to confirm the key, and then we'll use our password to log in. First thing to do is to run the update on our machine to be sure that we have the newest packages available. The next thing we want to do is to install engines as our web server. Actually don't need to use sudo because I'm already logged in as the root user, so I'll just use this one. So I will just apt-get install engines, and then we have a web server working. And to try that out we go to our website again, see the remote access. We will just copy the IP address here, go to a new tab and see if we can access our site, and here we got on port 80 welcome to engines. So that's the first step. Next step is to install Docker, so you can just go to docker.com, get started and go through the installation guidelines there. We are using Docker for Linux, so we'll just install Docker for Linux and Ubuntu. But I'm going to go through the quick steps that I've already set up. So the first thing is to install apt transport HTTPS and certificates. I'll just copy this command here and paste it in here. And the next step is to add the key to the key server. So I will copy this one and paste it in here as well. And the third one is to add to the source list our Docker project. So I will just paste that in also. Final steps to install Docker is to run apt-get update, and then apt-get install Docker engine. And when that's finished, we just type docker version to see that we are good to go. And the last install step is to install Docker Compose. You can just go to the Docker Compose site and look at the install Compose. But I've already copied out the command here. So I will just copy and paste that to my terminal. So here we'll get Docker Compose and run the install script. And when it's finished, we will just give it the execute permission with gch mode. And to check if Docker Compose is working, you can see that it has version 190. So now the installation phase is finished. The next thing we want to do is to install WordPress on our machine. So if we do ls, we have nothing in our home directory, so we will make a directory called docker. And in here we will start to create our Docker containers. First will be WordPress. So if you go to the Docker Hub, there's a lot of Docker containers or recipe for Docker containers available. So if you go to Explore and you look for WordPress, you get many different suggestions, and in this case I'm going to use Bitnami WordPress. So if you click on this, you can see information about this container and how you use Docker Compose, which we are going to use, and they specify which parameters are allowed here and what you can do with this container. So I have already tried out this recipe and changed it a little bit, so we will start by look at that. So here we have the Docker Compose script for Bitnami WordPress. I will just go through it. We have a version number here, which is version 2, and here we specify the services. The first service we specify is the MariaDB, which is the SQL that we're going to use or is used in this image. And here you see the image and the Docker image name. And here you see volumes. What volumes do is it maps the current directory and creates a directory called Docker runtime with MariaDB persistence, and maps that to the Docker container with /Bitnami MariaDB. So you will have your database on the disk of the machine instead for just in the Docker image. So if the Docker image will be removed, you still have your database persistence on the machine. Then we have the WordPress service, which is based on this image. It depends on MariaDB, so MariaDB has to be loaded before WordPress loads. Here you can specify some environment variables like username, password, email, etc. And the blog name, you'll just call it IT company in this case. And WordPress image will use this environment variables when it boots up. We have port section also, where we map port 8080 to the container port 80 and 4430 to the container port 443. And here we persist some of the WordPress directories. In WordPress persistence we have Bitnami WordPress. So, and we have Apache persistence and PHP persistence. This will all be created in the Docker runtime folder in our directory. So if we go into our WordPress directory, we have nothing there yet. So we will begin with creating our Docker Compose file. So we'll just use nano Docker Compose, and it uses the YAML format. And here I will just copy my script and paste it in, and then I will save this file, and now we have our Docker Compose file. And to start up this script, I will do Docker Compose and I will say up. And if I specify D, it will be detached, so I will not see any of the log info that we will see when we start up the Docker script. So I will just take it away now so we can see what happens when we start up our container. First, it starts by pulling out the bits and pieces that it needs to build up this Docker container. And here you see the unique ID of each part of the Docker, the layer that this Docker is built upon. And it takes a while to get this, but after you have got one layer, it will persist on your machine. So next time we need to pull out something from Bitnami or some container that uses the same layers, it will just use the ones already downloaded. So now it is finished downloading the container and for MariaDB, and now it starts to get the WordPress bits and pieces. And when that is finished, we will see how Docker Compose starts up first the MariaDB container and then the WordPress container. So here we see it says attached to WordPress MariaDB and WordPress. So now it's already begin to start. It starts MariaDB, initializes Apache, and we see that that goes fine. It starts up PHP, and slowly it starts all the different apps that is included in this container. So here we saw that the database was okay. Welcome to MariaDB image. That was fine. And now it says your container is up to date. Okay, great. The next thing we can do to test out our setup is to go to our Linode file, copy the address of our machine, paste it here, and we used port 8080. So if that everything goes right, we have our WordPress ready to go. And I will show you how to import another theme now. I personally like the Unfold theme, which is a simple theme or a nice theme that you can use, that you can import some demos, different types of demo pages, and it is really powerful how you can edit the page to suit your needs. So I have already downloaded that to my Mac, so I will just go into the downloads folder, and there I should have Unfold already, and I will copy this zip file to my Linode machine, and you see that I just use secure copy here and take the Unfold file right here, and this is the root and the IP address of my machine, and here is where I'm going to the Docker directory, WordPress, Docker runtime, WordPress persistence, and WP content and themes. So there's where WordPress expects to get the themes. So we will just do this copy right now. And I will go into my Linode machine again. And if we look at the Docker WordPress directory, we have this Docker runtime folder. Here we have the WordPress persistent already, so we can look at that and the WP content. And here we have the themes folder for WordPress, and here we see that we have our Unfold theme already. So we don't have unzip, it doesn't come installed, so we will apt-get install unzip, and we will just run the unzip command on our zip file to get the theme out. So unzip Unfold, and here we go. So we remove Unfold 4, and then we have the Unfold folder in our themes folder, So if we go back to WordPress, we will go to /WordPress admin, and we'll log in with my user and my password, and then we get into the WordPress admin console, and we will just go to appearance, themes, and here we see that Unfold is here. We will say activate, and it will activate our Unfold theme. And then when we go directly to Unfold theme options, and here we have demo import. So we will be using IT consultant as our consulting demo. So I'll just click to import that, and it will import the theme or the consulting demo into our WordPress database with all the files needed. Now when that is finished, we will just click on Save All Changes, and we have our site ready. So we will see how it looks like just by right-clicking here and open it in another tab. So we have this great WordPress IT consultant page, which will bring us a lot of deals and money in the future. Unfortunately, all of our future customers will never remember this IP address and port, and so we need to connect our site to some domain. I have one domain here that I'm not using. I'll just use it as a demo called vnext.no for Norway. And I will just paste in my address of our Linode machine, save that. And I will also put in a wildcard DNS entry to my machine, so I can use whatever first part of the domain that will go to the same machine. So now we need to go into our Linode machine and configure engines. So I will go to our machine. We see that the Docker Compose is still running. We will just press Ctrl+C and break out of that because we don't want to take up this terminal just to run our Docker Compose. So what we'll do is we'll run Docker Compose up and specify D to run it as a detached. Just before we do that, I can show you Docker PS will show all the running containers, which is no at the time. If I do Docker PS with all, I will see that we have here two Docker containers that are not running right now because the status is exited and it was created 4 minutes ago. And if we run the images, here is our two images for MariaDB and WordPress. And the images, all the changes that we do will be persisted in the image, but if we remove the image, we will lose all the changes that we did. So if I do Docker Compose up detached, so it will run in the background. And to test that everything is okay, we'll go to the browser and just do a refresh on the page, and we see that everything is doing fine. So the next thing to do to connect our domain to our site is to go to etc engines, and here we have the configuration part of the engine's web server. So we'll go first to sites available, and here we see that just the default site is available, but we want our vnext.no domain to be available too, so we'll just do, we don't need sudo, we just do nano vnext.no, and here we will paste in our server definition. So it's just a server name that it's when it gets the host vnext.no or www.vnext.no, it will go to this root location. It will just proxy that to our Docker container, which in this case is with a wrong address. So I will just grab the right address here, and we'll just paste it in here, and we'll go to port 8080. So it will send the HTTP version, the upgrade, if we have web sockets, and they will send the host, and bypass with the HTTP upgrade. So we'll just save this. We'll go up to sites enabled, because we can have sites available and then we can have sites enabled. And here it's just a simple link to our to the sites available. So I will just do a link, symbolic link. I will copy this part here and vnext.no. Then we have it available also. So we'll do services engines restart, and if everything, yeah, we'll just service engines restart and everything is doing right, we should be able to get our site through vnext.no. And yes, it works. Now it's time to install Confluence. Go to the Docker Hub, we search for Confluence, and we see that here we have the Atlassian Confluence, the CP action conk that we are going to use. And I have already made the script available here. It is much simpler than the WordPress script because it's just using this image, and the container name is Confluence, and we'll map port 8090 to our internal Docker port. So I'll go to our machine. I will go to, yeah, we've already been thrown out, so I'll log in again. Go to Docker, and here we'll make a directory Confluence, just like we did with the WordPress directory. Go into that and make our Docker compose file, paste in the scripts, and Docker compose up. So we will see it will fetch the necessary components, the layers that will build up the image, just like we had in the WordPress example. And when it's finished pulling down all the layers, it will start up the container. Now I've seen that the Docker started up normally. I will just took it down and I will start it up in a detached mode. Then I need to do the same with ADC engines like we did before. Go to sites available and add our Confluence vnext.no, and I have the script ready here, so I'll just copy it from here, paste it in, and it will just contain Confluence vnext.no and the proxy here. That proxy is to our machine port 8090, and we'll do the same with the sites enabled, and then we will do service engines restart, and then we should be able to get to our Confluence site from the browser. Confluence vnext.no, and we'll see if picks up our site. Yes, here it comes. We are ready to set up Confluence in our Docker container. We will go for the trial installation. Select next, and it will take us to enter the license key. We will just say get evaluation license, and we can select Confluence server, our company, server ID, generate license, and it will generate license for us, and it will enter it into Confluence, so we should be ready to use our Confluence site after we got the license key ready. There is a bug in this image of Confluence, or it might be fixed when you try this out, but you have to wait approximately 5 up to 5 minutes before you get this screen here, because some of the operations have to time out. So we will just say manage user, and we will make username and password here. And next, and then Confluence creates our administrator account, and all the data will be stored in the image because we are using the built-in database with Confluence, but we could use SQL Server or some other database that is supported if we like that. Now setup is successful. We can start to use Confluence now. So after this step is finished. So here we have Confluence up and running. We will skip the initial steps. We will start a space called development, and then it creates the initial space for us, and we get some warnings about license. Then we will skip the tutorial and we can begin to create some pages. Here we are with our development page and the test page below. Welcome to the world of Confluence. To set up Jira is basically exactly the same steps. We go into our machine, into Docker. We will make a directory Jira, and there we will create our Docker compose file. And into that file we will paste the script, which is using port 8091 against 8080 internal in the Jira Docker. So I'll just paste it in here and save that file. And then it's only to start Docker compose up, and we'll do it in detached mode. And to set up the engines model, we just need to go to engines and paste in the script for Jira, which is basically very similar to the one we used with Confluence. We will just use server. The server will point to Jira vnex.no, and we used port 8091, and we can use the local host IP address here. This is ready to copy into engines, but when I look at the Docker compose output, I see that we don't have enough memory to start up Jira. So maybe we have chosen a little bit too small machine. So what we can do is we can go into our Linode. We can resize it. So we'll just resize it to 4 gigabytes of RAM instead of 2, and we will resize it now. And it can take a few minutes, so I will pause the recording. So after a few minutes it's already resized the machine, so I will just boot it up again. Now we should have a little bit more of RAM. So I can go to the command prompt and see if our machine is up and running. It can take a little while to boot up, but here it is. So we'll just log in, go back to our folder, go back to Jira, and we had the Docker file in wrong place, so we'll copy it here. And if I try to start it now, you'll see what will happen. Detach mode. So hopefully it should be better now with 2 extra gigabytes. And yes, it looks like it's now running, and if we do docker ps, we can see that Jira is now running, and we can start up our Confluence Docker also. Detach mode. So then we should see 2 Dockers running, and our WordPress would be running also if we start that up also. So now we go into the configuration of engines into sites available. We will copy Confluence to Jira, next and new, and we will just edit the Jira file, and we will change this to we let engines listen for the host server name as Jira.Venus, and if it finds Jira host name, it will take it to the local host and to port 8091. And now I have restarted the engines, but I need to do one thing extra. It is to go to sites enabled, and there I need to create a symbolic link to my Jira configuration file. So I'll just copy this part here and add Jira to it, and then I will restart engines again. Then we should be able to get to our Jira site. Just have to refresh this a little bit, and then we get into Jira. Okay, set it up for me. Yes, continue. Jira core, it's the same, generate license, to copy license, and we will create an administrator account. And we should soon have our Jira ready to go. And now Jira is ready to go, so we can just start to use Jira. And we have Confluence and Jira at our fingertips right now, which is very nice for every development company, or every startup company, or even every consultant that needs to document things. So we can just start to create projects and give it a name. So our test project is soon ready to use. So now I have created the Confluence page, the Jira page, everything is pointing to our domain. We can start to add users. Now the last thing we need to do is to make sure that our Dockers will start up when the machine reboots. So to do that, we need to go into our machine, create a startup script, and in that script we will paste in these commands. You give the full path to Docker Compose, you give the file that should be used, and you give it the up and detached commands. So basically this is a script that will start up all the 3 containers. You save that, you change the mod to execute on the startup script so it can be executed. And if you you can see now it is executable. And then you have to go to Cron tab, edit, we'll choose Nano as the editor, go here at the bottom, and then we will say every time the machine reboots, start up these scripts. So we will paste it in here, save, and then we reboot the machine.